Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my Imperial and friendly friend, Frank. How are you today?
I'm feeling benevolent in my imperiality.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Imperiality?
Now it is, because I'm the emperor, and I can make up words.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You know, that intro makes it sound like we're going to talk about Star Wars.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
We're not at all.
Nope.
And I will tell you why that was my intro when we start talking about beers. Frank, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking. So I have a bunch of really interesting beers in my fridge right now. I just had a birthday recently, and my very sweet wife.
Happy 47th birthday, Frank.
Thank you. I've been emotionally 47 since birth, so we're finally.
You still have quite a number of years left before you actually reach that birth age that you talked about.
Yes, until I age into my personality. Yes. But yes, I just had a birthday, and my very sweet wife saw fit to throw a party and have a bunch of friends over, and a bunch of people brought beer. And so my friends know me pretty well, and they know that I like interesting sort of off the beaten path beers. And so I've gotten a lot of really interesting stuff that I'm getting to sample. So I'll be sharing those with you guys over the next couple weeks. But the one I'm doing right now is Boulevard Brewing Company 6th Glass Quad. It's a quadruple ale. 10.2% alcohol content. It is pretty high ABV. But yeah, it's Boulevard Brewing Company out of Kansas City, Missouri. And cool. It is delicious. It's a delicious quad ale. You know me, I love my Belgian style beers, and this is great. This is really, really good. So I'm on board with this one.
That's great. I have one question about all of that. Why wasn't I invited to this birthday party that your wife decided to throw? I'm kind of offended. Actually,
you were there.
I was there, wasn't I?
There.
We have pictures together.
We do.
That the internet will never see.
Yeah. Well,
actually, that's not true. The internet has seen some of them. Actually, yeah. That's true. Good times. Anyway, I am drinking a Dragon's Milk. Ooh. From the New Holland Brewing Company. It is an Imperial Stout, which is where my mind was when I decided to reference that as our opening number. So it's really more about me than you.
Did you have that one at the first venue that we were at?
Yes, I had it at the first venue.
Okay, I think I've had that one a long time ago.
It's really good. It's malty, kind of vanilla, not vanilla like plain, but vanilla flavor.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Nice Imperial Stout. It's an 11% ABV.
Oof.
I know.
Oof.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's a have one kind of beers.
Sure.
But stouts are hit or miss for me. Sometimes they're just a little too heavy, or not heavy enough sometimes, and you're like, is this even a stout? What are you?
Right.
But Dragon's Milk was exactly where I wanted it to be. It was so good. It had I think the vanilla actually really, really comes out in it. Like, you can really taste it. It sometimes stouts can be flat in their taste.
Yes.
But not this one, baby. I really enjoyed it. It was good. I'd have more.
I'm reading about it right now. This looks really good. The label looks familiar, so I'm pretty sure I tried it at some point. But yeah,
it's from Michigan.
Yeah. from Michigan. It's barrel aged in oak barrels. So that's cool.
It's cool. It's cool. Would recommend. 9 out of 10. Would revisit. I don't know, maybe 10 out of 10. Nah, 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
Some room for improvement.
There's always a little bit. There's always, I'm like an A- kind of giver. Like you could be an A.
Sure.
It's not perfect. No,
sure.
That's a terrible thing to be. Like always reaching for perfection and never getting there.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. Well, Frank, we're here today to talk about something that is near and dear to both of our hearts that we don't get really to talk about on Supergirl TV Talk, because we're there just to talk about Supergirl, but we both also watch Arrow and The Flash.
That's right.
And so we're here today to talk about the state of the Arrowverse and where that leaves us as we start to pick up after our mid-season breaks and all of that stuff. Now, Black Lightning not being part of that universe, we'll leave that a little off to the side. And Gotham is definitely not part of that universe, as is Krypton. And Gotham just has come back, and Krypton's not even back yet. So we'll leave those off to the side. And you don't watch Legends of Tomorrow, and I am not caught up on Legends of Tomorrow.
So it leaves us with Arrow and The Flash.
That leaves us with Arrow and The Flash.
Okay.
My goodness, Arrow and The Flash.
If you are not caught up on Arrow or The Flash, we will be spoiling the current seasons of Arrow and The Flash. So just know that. We won't be talking I don't think we're going to get into the Elseworlds crossover all that much. We might mention it a little bit, but we did a full review of it over on Supergirl TV Talk. So if you want to hear that, I'll put the link to that in the show notes. But you can hear a more full discussion we did there with our friend Derek from Starkville's House of El Krypton and Round 3 and a bunch of other awesome podcasts. So you can check that out over there. But yeah, let's talk. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Arrow or The Flash?
Well, whichever one let's talk about The Flash first.
Okay.
Let's talk about The Flash first. So let's start this off right. His name is Barry Allen, and he's the fastest man alive. There you go. Good.
Yep. Nice. Yeah.
If I don't do it for Arrow, remind me.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
I really did not care much for a lot of this season at the start, but I've come around on it.
Ooh.
So
I
was kind of off the train while he was in prison.
No, you're talking about Barry.
Oh, I'm thinking of Arrow. You literally said The Flash.
Arrow first. We can talk about Arrow first.
Let's talk about Flash. Okay. I've been loving the season of The Flash.
Oh, all right. I was so surprised. I was like,
what are you
not liking? This is one of their. I think this is one of their best seasons yet.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Nora being there has been a really fun sort of proxy for the audience, and I feel like in a lot of ways, where she's sort of like, she looks up to Barry the way she does, and I do too. So it's cool that there's a character there who's sort of going through a lot of the same feelings that I do as a viewer and as a fan of The Flash. Yeah, so you're loving it too.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah. I think some of the characters. 5 seasons in now, or 4 seasons into their 5th, they've really coalesced into, like who they are. They like have a very firm understanding of who they are. We're past the point of, say, like Iris going, oh, am I just the girlfriend, or am I the reporter, or am I this, or am I this? She knows who she is and how important she is to the team and to the show. Barry isn't mopeyson anymore, like, oh, it's all my responsibility, and we've got some Caitlin backstory. Cisco's more than just his quips. They're actually utilizing Ralph as a detective, which I think is a huge part of Elongated Man. He is, Elongated Man and The Flash go back to the 50s. When The Flash was rebooted in 1954 to be Barry Allen The Flash, as everyone knows him, instead of Jay Garrick in the comics, like Elongated Man was in those books like a year into The Flash's reboot. Like not the book Elongated Man, as in like he is part of the Flash canon going all the way back there. And he's always been a detective. And so I love that we're actually seeing detective Oh my goodness, what's his actual name? Help me out here. What's
Ralph
his name?
Dibny?
Ralph Dibny. Thank you. Oh man, that was going to bother me. I love it. I got to say though, my favorite Ralph Dibny moment out of this season, I think, was the premiere when everybody's talking everyone's talking in Star Labs and whatever else, and he comes in and he's like, "Guys, I think there are multiple Earths."
I know.
And he goes to this whole thing, and then they're like, "No, Ralph, we know. What do you think we were saying when he said like he's from Earth 2?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "He's from Earth.
Earth.
Also." No, he's from Earth. Also.
Earth also.
So good.
It's
so good.
It's the thing of Ralph like always catching up, always being late to the party is actually a gag that I'm very much a fan of. I was slow to warm up to this version of Ralph. Like when he first showed up, I kind of thought he was kind of a douche.
He was. Well, not he was.
Yeah. And not in like a
likable way.
No, not in a likable way. But I have come around on him, and I have kind of opened up and come to enjoy him a lot more.
No, I think I've always liked Ralph because I like Elongated Man. So I feel like he was always going to get there. I was just kind of waiting for him to catch up to the Elongated Man that I kind of know and love. But I think we'll go even further than that. I think Ralph is kind of like all the other characters. I said they all kind of feel like took a few years to get to a place where you kind of knew who they were and what they were about, and the writers of the show found a place for everybody that felt natural and cohesive and everything like that.
Yeah,
I think that Ralph will get there too. He just started late. He had a few years behind.
That's right. I agree with that. I think I was just being impatient when he wasn't there yet. But now that he's getting there and he shows the promise, I'm on board with it. So I'm happy about that. I'm a little bummed we haven't gotten a lot of Joe West this season. I know that
he was hurt.
Yeah,
he hurt his back.
Yeah,
he was out on medical leave. He's coming back though. I just saw an article the other day. He is good. He is officially returning.
Ever since Savitar, I have been afraid. I think I've talked to you about this a couple of times. Yep. I have been afraid that they're going to kill off Joe. And I really hope they don't, because I feel like he is such a great presence on that show, and brings so much heart to that show that I really, really love.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
In the back of my head, I feel like at any time they could just kill him if they want to, and it makes me sad and scared to think about that happening. I really don't want it to happen.
You know why I think you think that? Because I don't disagree with you, but I think it's because our introduction to the Arrowverse was Arrow, right? And they killed off Mora in the second season.
Yeah,
and so she, and she was important that way, and in her own way, and everything like that. So I think there's this like slight fear of like, oh, you're not a superhero, so I actually fear for your life.
That's it. It's because he's not a superhero.
Yeah, because like you could talk about the peril of like the Flash dying and disappearing and all that stuff, but the show's called The Flash,
right?
There's
some
Arrow.
job security there for Grant Gustin, right? Like
unless heroes really want to leave, most of unless they're predetermined to only have a season or two, right? Sometimes they like plan it out. Like say Mon-El on Supergirl was only for 2 seasons.
Sure,
they said from these are the 2 years that we're going to map out his character growth and development arc and whatever else, and that's it. He's gone at the end. I think those other characters that have been there since the beginning, characters like Cisco and Caitlin, whatever else, unless those actors want to leave, they're probably safe.
Yep, more or less. I think the other thing with Joe West that concerns me is because he is there is a tradition of like the Uncle Ben, the Jonathan Kent, like the father figure dying.
Sure.
And there being a lesson for the hero to learn in that. And so I think I'm afraid that they will, choose to do that storyline.
I would
whenever Jesse L. Martin feels like leaving the show.
That's true, though I would counter that by saying, oh, they've already done that with Barry's real parents.
Totally.
Because both his parents have been killed at this point.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, his
right?
dad.
His dad's dead.
His mom, obviously, we know that. But I'm
pretty sure his dad's dead.
I'm pretty sure now. I'm doubting because we've only seen John Wesley Shipp.
You know what? I think. Yes, I'm pretty sure he's dead because now he's playing Jay Garrick. I don't think he's playing both anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I can't remember. I think that was season 3. I'm pretty sure he died in season 3.
Yeah, I need to go back and look now. But Henry, I'm pretty sure.
Henry Allen. Good name. Henry Allen. Good, strong name. Anyway, what do you think of Cicada as you're looking that up?
Oh, yeah, Cicada. Cicada is fine, honestly. Like, I don't super love him. I think his story is interesting, his connection to his daughter and everything. So they're fleshing him out pretty nicely, I think. And I definitely am more. I'm not more into, but let's say less bothered by him than I was by the Thinker or Savitar.
See, I liked the Thinker. You didn't like the Thinker.
I started out liking him, but by the end of it was a little too mad scientist-y for me. So I don't remember it super fondly. I was fine with it while it was happening, but I think I sort of thought that it kind of got drawn out longer than it needed to, and there were. I didn't feel that the character was enough to sort of support a whole season.
Sometimes that's the way with 22 episodes.
Yeah. I think that in a big way is part of it because I think at 10 or 12 it would have been fine.
I've heard some rumors that Cicada is actually not the main villain.
I'd be okay with that.
Where it's actually
okay with that.
Maybe they're trying that like one villain for 13 episodes and another villain for 13 episodes.
Hey, I'd be so okay with like. So I don't watch Gotham anymore, but you've told me that they basically have broken their seasons into halves.
Yes,
and
that's
they
right.
do like different story arcs for both halves. Honestly, like if they're given 22 episodes anyway, why not do that? You take a big mid-season break anyway.
Exactly.
So why not use that break as like a palate cleanser and then come back with maybe you resolve the first half storyline in the first episode, like you have a cliffhanger and you resolve it. And then you set up the next story.
That's right. And they still can be connected in their own way. Like Gotham's are not. It's not a disconnected season.
Oh yeah, it's not like it's a new season.
No, but it's a fully wrapped story at that point, and then you kind of move on to the next part of that story.
Right. And there can be themes and events that span both halves of the season. You know, if there's like interpersonal conflict, or Caitlin and her dad, or figure that kind of stuff. You could have that kind of thing carry out throughout the whole season across both halves. So there's some unity to it and some cohesiveness. But you could have two different villains.
They have kind of done that before in the Arrowverse. Season 2 of Arrow, the first half of the season, the villain is Brother Blood.
That's right.
And then in the finale, you learn it's actually Deathstroke pulling the strings the whole time. And you're like, oh my God, he's alive. It's this. It's like a whole big thing. And then it's a big shift from that moment. And arguably, season 2 of Arrow is one of their best, if still not their best season. And so I think you could see that. I think maybe they're actually trying to play that out here on The Flash, because so at the end of one of the last Flash episodes, you learn that Nora is in communicade with Eobard Thawne.
Right.
A very specific version of Eobard Thawne, even. He's Harrison Wells' Eobard Thawne.
Mm-hmm.
A very particular moment in time.
Yeah, and it's man, that was great. Those last couple episodes of the first half of the season were really cool. We're going back in time and trying to relive some of those moments, getting the what was the artifact they were trying to get to put in the pillar so that it would be there when they needed it. I can't remember what it was, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Whatever the MacGuffin was. That was a really fun episode, and going back to seeing old season 1 version of all the characters with that, Harrison Wells and everything. That was really, really cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
It was a good 100th episode. It was like
That's
a
right, that was
nice
the 100th
way of
episode.
it was like a nice way of doing a clip show without doing a clip show.
Yeah, I loved that. That made me feel similar to the way that like the Smallville 200th episode did, where they went back to the high school and did like the 10-year reunion or whatever it was.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh yeah, it was. They had it was a good episode.
I believe you. I just don't remember it. What season was that?
9 or 10?
Okay. Oh yeah. Because I remember them going into the Torch's office, and there's like the new versions of them.
Correct.
And they're like the early 2000s version or like mid 2000 versions of yeah. Right. I do remember that now.
Right. And the guy who was like the bug boy from like the second episode of the series was in that episode and was like, oh, I wanted to tell Clark that he turned my life around and blah blah blah.
That's right, man. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is it though?
No, it's similar.
It's good. It's similar stuff.
Similar idea.
It's at least similar. That's good.
Of like revisiting the early seasons of the show in an anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Gave me similar vibes. It was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I've been loving this season of The Flash more than I have in a couple of years. Not that I didn't enjoy it in the last couple of years, but this is the most that I've enjoyed it, in 2 or 3 years. So it's always fun. It's when your favorite shows are firing on all cylinders, it's always a good thing.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Any predictions that you think that something that, do you think Nora's going to turn on Eobard, or Eobard's going to get out of prison, or, something along those lines?
I do think Nora will be faced with a choice at some point of whether she's going to continue whatever mission she's on with Eobard, or whether she's going to fully support her dad. I think she'll end up telling her parents what's going on, and and I think that she'll be faced with a choice, and she'll ultimately choose the right side of things. I do wonder if that will mess up the timeline, though, right? It has to.
Absolutely.
I mean, just the fact that she's there and that she's been hanging out as long as she has, I'm sort of surprised that they allowed that. Like, I get it's a good story and I'm enjoying the hell out of it, but on principle, almost, I'm surprised that Barry wasn't like, no, you need to go back to your time right now because your being here is just polluting the time stream, as is.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's a little... time stream is a little what you need it to be at that time kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
it's wibbly wobbly.
But that's okay. I don't really mind because I like Nora a lot, so I'm
exactly.
Stick
it's
around.
A comic book story. I have to remember it's a comic book story, and if something seems off, it's like it's comic books on TV. Like that's all it is. So
that's right.
It's comic book science, comic book logic.
Why can they run fast? Because they can. Shut up.
Because they can. Because of reasons.
Because of science, exactly. Speaking of, let's hop over to our decidedly non-science show, Arrow.
Yep.
So you said you were not thrilled with the beginning of this season.
I wasn't thrilled with the beginning of it. By the end, now the last episode or two, he's been out of prison. Oliver's been out of prison, so I've been enjoying it more. With Felicity going as dark as she has to, doing anything to get him out, that kind of it feels a little bit of a downer. Those first,
I agree.
6 or 7 episodes were a bit of a downer, and so it kind of I always left sort of feeling heavy, and I binged them too, so maybe I felt it even more because I was watching 2 or 3 of them in a row any given day, and so it was like 2 or 3 hours of sort of heavy downer material back to back, but very well done, just not what I prefer. I think I told you this, I think I said this on a podcast, but maybe I said it to you just one-on-one. But one thing that I've been doing, one thing that helps me get through when I'm enjoying some of these shows a little bit less, like when they're going through a spell where I don't particularly care for the current story or whatever, is just to literally picture what's happening on screen.
Oh yeah,
as comic book panels.
You have told me this before. That's a genius idea.
I'll tell you, man, I've been doing it with lots of stuff. Like when I'm watching, there were moments in Aquaman that I didn't really love. And in those moments, I was like, well, literally just picture this as if it was happening on the page and like picture the dialogue in speech bubbles. Mm-hmm. And when I look at it that way, I'm like, yeah, this does fit though. Like I can see that, I can picture that as a comic book and it would fit. So like, why do I like it on the page, but not as much on screen? I don't know. But once I stop and think of it that way, I enjoy it, 20% more, if not more than that.
I think some things are clunky on screen that you forgive when you're reading. Exposition, especially, is something that you forgive when you're reading because you take it at your own pace. You can, it's easier to absorb. You're looking at other things, but in a film, that's the focus. You have to be where the exposition is, and I think just locations and times and pacing, and it's all different in a written medium or even in like a written / visual medium like a comic book. And so I think a film or a television or whatever else, in some ways you're a little bit more jammed that way because it's definitely a show don't tell kind of thing. But when you have to tell, like sometimes you just have to say it, it's very hard, for an audience to kind of pull and accept that. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, there's just times where it's too hard to say something, like to get a certain amount of exposition out there or to communicate an idea without it being a little bit clumsy. And I get caught up on that sometimes. And so I try. I guess what I end up doing is distancing myself from that, not getting caught up in it, and just sort of accepting the facts for what they are.
That's good. I think I used to get more caught up on it than I do now. Maybe I just got used to it. And so I'm just, just fine. Just roll with it. Because maybe for something, especially like an Aquaman or Arrowverse or whatever, there are concepts that as a comic fan, you just go, yep. And then, but you have to tell the people who don't know. You just have to. That's why you see Batman's origin every movie because, or Krypton or whatever, because it's somebody's first. Mm-hmm. So I've mentioned this story on the podcast many times, but I remember watching Batman Begins with somebody, and when the Waynes get shot, they like under their breath, the person went, "Oh, that's why he's Batman." Mm-hmm. Like, and they were 15, 16 years old, and so, but they just didn't know. They just knew what Batman was, but they didn't know that was so integral to the story. Mm-hmm. So you just got to roll with explanations sometimes. That's it. But going back to Arrow, it has been almost like non-superhero-y because he's been in prison.
That's right.
And maybe that's what's getting to you, because there's just like no vigilante rule in Star City right now, and so there's Black Canary's not running around, and Wild Dog's like, I'll pretend, and all this different.
I think I'm just impatient. I think I'm feeling impatient about but when do we go back to the superheroes? When do the superheroes come back and clean up the streets again?
I think maybe that's partly because the style of superhero that Green Arrow is on, especially on his in this universe, in this version of the show, is not your particular taste.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so, let's say if it was the Flash who was in prison for half the series, you might be a little bit more forgiving because you're more invested in Barry Allen than you are in Oliver Queen. Mm-hmm. So you're like, well, I really just want to see Green Arrow do cool things, and so I don't really care about you as a person. But does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. There's an element of that. I think that's maybe stretching a little bit because I do care, but you wouldn't
watch if you didn't care a little. But
I'm feeling the lack of that piece, though. I'm feeling the lack of his heroics.
I don't disagree with you. Okay. Actually, the flash forwards which I think have been very interesting, which I thought was because that's been part of the makeup of the show for so long. I like this idea of flash forwards because I do love, like, oh my God, how did we get here? I like that. I like that storytelling. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is so different. Like, who's going to show up? What's going to happen? Like, it's like, I don't know why I like that so much. I just do. Batman Beyond was great for that. Because you're
true. Yeah.
Oh my God, why does he have a cane? Oh my God, why is Superman wearing a black suit in this version of the Justice League? Like, who's that person? Like, I like that. So
yeah, that's, and Batman Beyond just turned 20 this past week.
It's crazy.
20 years since Batman Beyond premiered. But yeah, I agree. I think that so I was pretty vocal about not loving the flashbacks over the past 6 years. Mm-hmm. because they just didn't. I felt like you could take those out, and like they always did a good job of like connecting what was happening in the current timeline with what was happening in the flashback. Like there was always some reason. But I still kind of felt like you could take those flashbacks out and I wouldn't be missing much. Like the main story that I was invested in was the present day story. But the flash forwards I think are interesting because now we're building towards something like there is a season long arc here that and we'll get the answers in the end.
That's right. Go ahead.
I care more.
Yeah, I think the first 2 seasons of Arrow I don't think you would actually be able to take out the flashbacks without getting the whole story.
That might be fair. I might be remembering more of the last couple of seasons.
It was a lot of cross pollination. Like this character would then show up again in his future. Think about it, like 2 seasons of Slade on the island. Like the reveal of Deathstroke in the middle of season 2 means nothing without
that's true.
That's stuff on the island first. Right. But I think as they went on, I do not disagree with you. I think they were a little like I was tired of them. I still liked them, but 6. I didn't need them every episode. Like you could have done it every few episodes or something like that.
Make them count more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these flash forwards, I want to know, like, because it's basically that first flash forward world. I think it was on Legends of Tomorrow. Remember where Oliver had a beard and no arm? Do you remember that? Yep. And there was Connor Hawke as Green Arrow, and that's basically the future they're living in right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to know more. Isn't Ted Kord supposed to show up this season?
Oh, too? I forgot about that. Yeah, I wonder when that happens.
I don't know, because he was supposed to show up back in season 3, and that's why we got Ray Palmer instead of Ted Kord.
Right.
Because it was Kord Industries for years on Arrow, and then Ray Palmer shows up out of nowhere. Because I think someone at Warner Brothers was like, actually, we have a plan for Blue Beetle, so you can't use them. Hey, look what happened.
I mean, they've been developing a Blue Beetle movie, like sort of on the back burner for a long time.
Exactly.
And now they're talking about doing Jaime Reyes.
Yes, but I don't know if Ted Kord's going to be part of that or not. I would assume that he is. Legacy characters are not something you see tons of in films.
I mean, you could do that the way Ant-Man was handled, where you still had Hank Pym.
Exactly. You do it exactly like that.
Yeah.
I mean, well, even Young Justice season 2 talks about that, where by the time it gets to season 2, Ted Kord Blue Beetle is already deceased. And Jaime talks about like him finding like the original Blue Beetle, somebody Garrett, I can't remember his name, and then finding the Scarab, and then Ted Kord getting the Scarab next and realizing that it was alien tech and deciding not to bond with it and becoming the human Blue Beetle first, and then going to the Jaime Reyes next Blue Beetle. So you could do something very similar. You could do something like that. It'd be cool. You don't get a lot of generational stuff. Ant-Man is a great example of that. I always think of Mask of Zorro as my first go-to.
Oh, sure.
Because it's Anthony Hopkins. We're like, I'm too old to be Zorro. You should be Zorro now. I always think of that first.
Passing the torch. Last thing I will say about the flash forwards thing is that it feels like I always enjoy. I feel like almost every drama series just at some point where they have an episode where the first scene of an episode is like the end of the episode, and then they go like 24 hours earlier and they show you how we got there, like how we built up to this climax. And I feel like that's what they're doing with the flash forwards, is like they're showing us what's going to happen, and the whole season is the journey to that time, that point in time.
Yeah, it might even be more than a season because it's quite a ways in the future.
That could be. Yeah, that's true. They could be building over a couple of seasons, in which case I probably will get impatient again. But I still want to, like, intellectually, I'm still here for the journey, and I appreciate what they're doing there.
Yeah, I do too. So that's good. I will say, we talked about Batman Beyond a few minutes ago. One thing from The Flash that I've really enjoyed is that they're using the word shui. For when Nora likes something, which is a great Batman Beyond pull. It's so great. Shui.
So I love that they like gave it that much thought and went in that direction.
Somebody in that writer's room took the rest of the day off for that.
For sure.
I
hope it was Sterling Gates.
I bet maybe it was. Maybe it was. Is Sterling Gates right for The Flash or just Supergirl?
He was writing for The Flash for a bit, but now I actually wonder if he's still on staff this season. I know he was last season.
He definitely is on one of them. I don't know which one because his name pops up every so often.
Okay,
So,
well then it's The Flash.
It's The Flash.
He joined the staff of The Flash. I know for sure.
Okay.
Last season or the season before, and I just don't remember if he was still there. But he joined in season 4.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I would love future Arrow episodes to have, like, that would be hilarious if Batman, like Terry McGinnis Batman, showed up.
Yep.
Because that would
be great.
Because wouldn't you have a great future, like, Beyond show on, like, you could have a Justice League Beyond show, because you're never going to get a movie with that concept, but you could have Nora Allen and Terry McGinnis and Connor Hawke, or, you know, like, you could build the other side of, you know, the Arrowverse in the future, do a show with that. I would love that.
Yes, you totally could. Man, that would be so cool. That would be that could also be a great, like, that could be a great Arrowverse show. It could be a great DC Universe show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential with that whole cast of characters and that whole setting. That'd be really neat.
Be very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Frank, this has been a wonderful discussion. I like your face. And
I like your face.
Thanks. I'm glad that we've been able to do this for so long. Whatever number episode this is, 240 something, 250 something, whatever it is.
Yeah, 240 something.
Wow, that's crazy. 250 coming up soon.
Yeah.
Are we going to do a clip show, Frank?
No, we'll just do a retrospective where we interview our past selves from episode 2.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. That would be terrible.
Like, so are those still your favorite black and white movies, or are those still your favorite movie musicals, or whatever?
Ugh, I'd have to. Oh my God, I'd have to, like, go back and listen to that.
That would be a fun thing to do someday. Like, revisit one of our very, very early, like, let's say one of our first 10 episodes or something, where we went down a list of, like, here are my favorite movies of this category or stories of this type or whatever, and then go through it and be like, no, I have a completely different list today, and this is the new list.
We could do that. I'm all right. That's a good retrospective idea.
That could be fun to do someday.
All right. That would be fun. All right. Well, anyway, you can find us on beerwithgeeks.com and Twitter and Gmail and Facebook and other places. No, is that it? Did I say all the good ones? Yeah. You can rate and review us on iTunes and find us on Spotify and Pandora and Google Play and all other these fun places that podcasts can be found. It's just so many of them now. I can't even list them all. Just literally everywhere. So, which is always super fun. You could follow Frank on Twitter at Frank Ramblings, and myself at TimothyPG13. Find all of the Thought Bubble audio shows at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. Check out all of our other good ones, limited, including but not limited to Academy Rewind, Supergirl TV Talk, Tolkien TV Talk, Out Loud,
Hate Watch with Us,
Hate Watch with Us, Loud Women. That's what I meant. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's more on the way. I definitely missed one too. What did I miss?
Metropolis
Pod. Yep. Wow.
We've got a lot of shows now. It's too many to name. I
can't actually name them all. That's crazy.
We couldn't even if we tried. So thoughtbubbleaudio.com, patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. You know, $1 a month works out to $0.25 a week. If you can afford that, then consider it.
Patreon. Yeah, man, this is crazy. We're like so professional, Frank.
Super professional.
We're
the most professional.
We're the most professional. All right.
For sure.
Until next time. Cheers.